Hello, I'm Elaine Nyans, the Customer Services Manager at BCSI. Today we are going to cover the installation and use of the TrakStation and TrakPods. A TrakStation arrives in two boxes. The first box contains the TrakStation tablet and its power supply. The second box contains the accessories needed to attach all the desired TrakPods. These include a USB hub with a separate power supply and a USB cable for connection to the TrakStation. Additionally, in the second box, there are two magic mounts for mounting the tablet, two USB extension cables for connecting devices, and a package of cloops to assist with managing the cables in your lab. For cabinet incubators, each TrakPod arrives in one box. Inside the box, there is the TrakPod and a USB cable to connect it to the TrakStation's USB hub. For benchtop incubators, the TrakPod is already installed inside the benchtop incubator. All that is required is the USB cable to plug it into the USB hub. Two magnetic pads are provided with the TrakStation for easy mounting in your lab. If desired, these are affixed to the back of the tablet, and then the TrakStation can be placed onto the front or side surfaces of one of your incubators. If the tablet does not stay on the incubator, an additional metal plate is included and should be affixed to the corresponding location on the incubator. Connect the TrakStation's power supply. Then connect the USB hub to the TrakStation with the supplied USB cable and optional USB extension cable. The USB hub will also need to be connected to its own power supply. Place the USB hub somewhere out of the way from normal workflow, such as on top of or behind an incubator. The TrakStation is turned on with the switch on the back. For data download to a USB drive, it can be convenient to add the second USB extension cable to the hub for easier access. For cabinet-style incubators, feed the TrakPod's fiber optic cable through the incubator's access port. Access ports are typically on the side or the back of the incubator. Loosely connect the fixture and wing nut into the hole of your incubator's shelf. Then thread the fixture onto the fiber optic until it is fully connected. Finally, tighten the wing nut against the bottom of the shelf to hold the unit in place on the incubator shelf. If you need to, carefully cut a slit into the stopper to fit it around the fiber optic. Then, seal the incubator access port with the stopper. The TrakPod magnetically mounts to the side of your incubator. Position the TrakPod on the side of the incubator, attach one end of the USB cable to the back of the TrakPod and the other end to the USB hub. Use a cloop for cable management on the side of your incubator. Repeat these steps for additional TrakPods. Now you will need to add the pod to the TrakStation. On the TrakStation, add the pod in the Settings menu by selecting its serial number. Once added, the pod will appear on the home screen. You can rename the pod in the Supervisor's menu by entering the PIN code and then selecting instrument names. Select the pod you would like to modify and type in a name that identifies the incubator it is monitoring. Each year, the QC standard must be replaced. With the new QC standard, you will enter the QC string into the TrakStation in the Supervisor's menu. Enter the PIN for access to this menu, then select Set QC Standards. Type in the 14-digit QC string printed on the label and enter the expiration date. Run a QC test on each TrakPod after it has been installed in your incubator. Also run the QC test once a week when changing your pH sensor. To run the QC test, select the TrakPod you will test, then use the Run QC Test button. If you are not sure which TrakPod or fiber optic you are testing, press the Find Fiber button to cause the TrakPod's fiber to blink 3 times. The fiber probe can be cleaned with a dry tissue, like a Kim wipe, to remove anything that blocks the optical path. Then put and hold the matching QC control sensor onto the probe and press Continue. The TrakPod quickly checks that the fluorescent signal still matches the initial factory settings and reports a confidence number close to 1. It may be off a little, but if the instrument indicates pass, then the signal is okay. If any differences in the signal exist, the TrakPod will automatically make the necessary internal adjustment. The QC test should be run once a week when you change pH sensors. When the TrakPods are adjusted at the factory, several environmental issues are in play: temperature, elevation, humidity, as well as the condition of the incubator and test equipment used by BCSI. With any laboratory instrument, one must demonstrate the equipment meets your needs and fulfills the intended use for pH measurement in your clinic. To do so, it is important to ensure that the incubator being used is properly calibrated for both CO2 and temperature. Verify the incubator temperature and CO2 concentration by an external method, such as a certified thermometer or FireRite, before beginning your setup tests. Once you have your TrakStation and TrakPods installed and QC tested, gather the required materials. You will need 3 sensors, 300 microliters of media, and oil for overlay. You will need 150 microliters of oil for humidified incubators or 450 microliters of oil for dry incubators. Plan for 5 minutes of setup time in the afternoon and 10 minutes the next day to perform the pH readings. If you want to follow along, the protocol is in the first time use section of the user's manual. For the setup work, open the required number of sensor packages and place them in a Petri dish. Then, carefully pipette 100 microliters of media onto each of the sensor membranes. Be careful not to introduce bubbles while pipetting. Then, add oil to each sensor. Add 50 microliters of oil for humidified incubators and 150 microliters of oil for dry incubators. The oil stays on top of the media and prevents it from evaporating during normal pH monitoring. It is important that the oil fully cover the media. Additional oil can be added if needed. Now, you simply place the sensors into the incubator environment and allow them to equilibrate for 24 hours. You will also prepare a pH reference sample. This could be one additional sensor with 150 microliters of IVF medium to be used, which would then be read on a blood gas analyzer. Or it could be a sample as you would previously prepare for pH measuring in your lab. Or if needed, the reference could be the pH from the certificate of analysis when you duplicate the CO2 settings accounted for elevation. After the sensors have equilibrated for 24 hours, select the TrakPod you will test, then use the Site Standardization button. Enter the pH ID that is found on the blue packaging label of the sensors. Then, quickly read all the sensors by placing them on the probe and pressing Go for each sensor. If a few readings are done incorrectly, don't worry. After you have read the sensors, you can select the ones which you wish to average. If a reading or two was done incorrectly, don't select that one for averaging. After getting an average, enter your reference pH and press Calculate. Your offset will be calculated, and you can then set it into your TrakPod with the Set button. This completes the site standardization protocol for this TrakPod. The protocol can be repeated with the same sensors in a second incubator, but you must allow at least 1 hour for the sensors to equilibrate in the second incubator's environment. People often ask, why do we need an offset value? The reason is that the setup at BCSI was done under the unique conditions present at our facility in Seattle, Washington. An offset value is required initially for every clinic and with every change in media type or incubator. This value corrects for the subtle differences between Seattle, Washington, where the unit was manufactured, and your clinic. After doing the site standardization protocol, you can use one of those sensors for a normal pH monitoring test. If you don't have a sensor available, prepare one with 100 microliters of media and 50 microliters of oil for humidified incubators and 150 microliters of oil for dry incubators. A new sensor should equilibrate overnight in the incubator before starting your pH test. A sensor from the site standardization protocol has already equilibrated and can be used immediately. Place the sensor onto the fiber probe, select the TrakPod you will use, and press the New Test button. Enter a 5-character test ID of your choosing and the pH ID that is found on the blue packaging label of the sensors. Then press Save. For the next 7 days, the TrakStation will automatically read the pH every half hour in your incubator environment. You can get a manual pH reading immediately by using the refresh button. At the end of your 7-day testing, press End Test, dispose of your sensor, and run the QC test. Then you can start pH monitoring a new sensor, which you should have prepared and equilibrated overnight. The SafeSense sensor acts as a surrogate media sample, so continuous pH monitoring will enable you to track its pH changes and optimize your culturing environmental conditions as needed. Thank you for your attention and for trusting SafeSense.